talked for 80% of this podcast, and nobody wants to hear my voice anymore.
We always want to hear your voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully our listeners agree with us.
What if they write in saying, no, stop talking, Saya?
Yeah, please send us your feedback at starsinourpocket@gmail.com.
Or tweet to us.
If you want Saya to stop talking, please let us know.
Hi, lovely people. This is Anisa. Welcome to part 2 of this month's Long Yak. You can find part 1 in episode 20. In this episode, we discuss currently airing Chinese dramas, recently completed Korean dramas, including our final thoughts on What's Wrong with Secretary Kim, and August drama premieres. Plus, as always, the question of the yak. Enjoy!
I didn't get much Korean drama watching done because, I don't know why, but I did get sucked up into Chinese dramas just incidentally. I was watching Secretary Kim and that was kind of like slowing down, so I went off to watch Legend of Fuyao and also Meteor Garden. So Legend of Fuyao is this one of those, the wuxia, the alternate history, fantasy drama thing. And Fuyao is this girl who was born from a lotus petal, but she was born and sort of adopted into this, why not? She was adopted into this lower caste.
It's another type of virgin birth.
Better than the way the rest of us was born, right? Would have given our mothers much less pain.
Yeah, this is more of a birth of Athena type of thing, like.
Didn't Athena pop out of what's his name's head, Zeus's head, or was that someone
Zeus's
else?
head, yeah.
I don't know.
Why not?
Head, petal. Anyway, carry on.
Sea foam, something. Okay, so this is supposed to be her legend. Like she goes from this lower caste servant girl into this legendary empress of 5 kingdoms type situation, which is great. However, for a better part of I think they've aired about 50 episodes. Right now I'm in like the 42nd episode. Part of the drama. Yeah, there is a reason I haven't been watching Korean drama. For better part of the drama though, it's her love interest, Crown Prince Wooju, who's been doing all the, I don't know, legendary shit. Fuyao is like this super, I don't know, competent sidekick more than an actual legendary warrior. But like Wooju is also supposed to be like a genius level dude, and he keeps Fuyao out of the loop a lot. Like he has a plan to take down a kingdom and doesn't tell her until the last moment where she's like, okay, cool, let's take down a kingdom. And then they fight their way out of, I don't know, this entire army blockading them. That shit happens a lot. They fight their way out of stuff a lot, and she is like super badass. But I think around episode 34 or 35, she has this amazing fight scene that I was basically waiting for, because after that, I suppose, it makes sense to have a Legend of Fuyao, because she was amazing. And she literally castrated a dude who was evil.
That sounds extremely painful.
That's hardcore.
I hope he deserved it.
He totally deserved it. But the way it was done was amazing. She was half dead, but somehow managed to do it anyway. And by the way, these people nearly die a lot. And if you have any experience watching Chinese fantasy, you would know that main characters can pop off at any moment. And most of them have tragic endings, and it's like a given thing. Like if it's a Chinese fantasy historical, chances are there's going to be a tragic ending. So everybody's been like clutching their pearls, and they've been like, is this going to have a bad ending? I cannot watch this stuff if it has a sad ending. And apparently it doesn't. Apparently, and I'm not going to take any responsibility about this rumor, but it's just that Ethan Juan, the guy playing Crown Prince Wooju, the lead character, he apparently let it slip that it had a happy ending, and the source material apparently has a happy ending. So, I can't guarantee the life of the rest of the cast, but at least young me, that is Fuyao, and Wooju apparently lived through it. So, any Chinese drama watchers out there who have been holding back on watching this, you can do so. So, Yeah, that's all I have to say about this one. Yeah. So yeah, there is that. And Meteor Garden. So have both of you watched Boys Over Flowers?
I haven't watched any version of Boys Over Flowers.
I watched Hana Yoridango, the original Japanese, 2 seasons, and then I watched like half of Boys Over Flowers, the Korean version, but I hated it. And then I read the recaps just to know what happens.
I watched all of that. I watched the Japanese, I watched the Korean. Yeah.
I don't think I watched the original Meteor Garden, like the Taiwanese version.
I did hear that
think
was the best one among all of the adaptations.
Oh, really? By that point, I had read the manga and I had watched 2 versions already, and I was just like, I'm done.
Okay.
I love the Japanese. I love the Japanese drama. I still really love that. Like,
yeah. So did I. There is like no doubt. I mean, and that's the same actor. I always forget his name. Who went on to do My Pet.
Matsumoto Jun.
He was. Yeah, Matsumoto was the same guy, right? Who went off to do My Pet.
He was in Kimi wa Peto as well. He was.
Kimi wa Peto.
I like that.
Right.
One.
So yeah, and I don't think anybody else could have pulled that one off. So yeah, I really liked him in those. He became like a solid actor for me after that. But yeah, as much as I liked that, I'm going to specifically talk about the Korean version because that one in the international community, it's Boys Over Flowers that has been most watched, more than the original Meteor Garden or the Japanese version. And Boys Over Flowers was. Yeah, it was really, it was kind of headachy how problematic it was, and yet I have watched it twice. So.
Oh really? How did you do that?
I couldn't even do it once.
Because
exactly.
Lee Min-ho, okay, because Lee Min-ho. I was not super fond of any of the other characters, especially not the weirdly blonde-haired dude who we are not going to. Actually, yeah, we already mentioned in this episode once because he's coming back in his own fantasy.
I always thought he had the face of a serial killer anyway.
Right? He was just so. But yeah, and I was not happy with him being the second lead at all. I kind of disliked him on sight. And I'm one of those petty people who totally feel happy that my initial completely unreasonable dislike has been vindicated by his recent actions.
I also feel that way, although I feel like I shouldn't say that, but yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm a petty person. Okay. But this Meteor Garden, so it has the character of Shansai is being played by Shen Yu, who's also just recently done this other very popular Chinese drama, which is a contemporary high school drama. It was called A Love So Beautiful. I talked about it a few episodes back.
That's right.
And the main lead is basically Dao Mingxi, and he's being played by Wang Hedi. And these two are doing a really good job. Like, they are charismatic, they have chemistry and all of that stuff. But it's Dao Mingxi whose character has always been very problematic because he's this immature, boyish guy who doesn't actually have a great game with girls. Like, his friends are all like, do this, romance girls this way, to sweep them off their feet, and those are very also, super stereotypically just very red pill type of game. However, this guy has no game. So what he does is, when he likes Shanchai, he goes full in and just tells her that he likes her. And Shanchai, for the longest time, doesn't like him. She likes his friend.
And it's very similar to the original Japanese version.
It's the same thing. Like, there are scenes that have been that have never changed from the original to the Japanese to the Korean to this one. So it's like, as dynamics unfold, things are pretty much the same. What has been changed is some of the interpersonal relationship. Like, Shanchai is more vocal about what she doesn't like about Dao Mingxi. And when Dao Mingxi does something brutish and arrogant and insensitive, he's called out on it. Okay, and that happens pretty regularly, which is both surprisingly progressive and also problematic. Because on the one hand, anytime he does something that the modern viewer would see as wrong, he's called out on it by his friends, by Shanchai, by his older sister. Somebody or the other will point it out to him. But on the other hand, he's still the main lead.
Yeah.
And his character changes slowly. He becomes a little more sensitive. When he looks back on some of his actions, he realizes that he was rude or he was. There are those things. But in times of stress or when he's trying to get back at someone, he'll still pull the, I'm a rich boy, a rich privileged boy card. So at least till now, I have not seen any real change in the guy. He's maturing at a very glacial pace, if you will, and most of his maturity is to do with what Shanchai approves of and what she doesn't. So it's very much narrowed down to her. Like all of his interest and any change that he has narrows down to her, which has been true of all of the adaptations, of course, but also is like, I mean, what happens when their relationship stabilizes and they've been together for a while and he's no longer trying to please her? Will he fall back on all of the old horrible behavior? There was this one really troublesome scene that again has been used in the original Meteor show. People had a lot of problem in it. There was this staircase scene where Dao Mingxi, when he had been shown a video of Shanchai, I think, petting, just being very familiar with his best friend. And now he knew that Shanchai had a crush on, and this was in the initial stages of, like, in the first 10 episodes. So he knew that she had feelings for his friend, so this was not like news to him, but they had accidentally shared a kiss, like Shanchai and Mingxi. So in his head, they were already in a relationship. Even though Shanchai had not said yes to anything, she had not accepted his feelings, but in his head, the relationship had already started. So when he saw a video of her interacting with his friend, he practically blows in on her and starts shouting at her, calling her a traitor and a cheat and stuff. And she's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And he really scares her. Like, he becomes aggressive and he scares her. And there is this moment when he forcefully kisses her. And that scene had been taken wholesale and put in this drama as well. Like, we were speculating that they might not put that scene in here because, look, it's 2018. Why would you do that? But they did put that scene in there. And she thinks it's very problematic, and the way she reacts to him is like, that was proper assault. Okay, she is terrified. It's not just a matter of him forcing sexual advances on her. It's that she is, and this is what sexual assault is like. You terrify the person. You're deliberately intimidating the other person by threatening sexual congress on them. So. And she is terrified of his actions. Like, when he's kissing her, she's crying. So it's a seriously messed up scene. Yeah. So we didn't expect them to put that in there, but they did. And then the next day, they can barely look at each other. And then other stuff happens. And anytime she brings it up, he's super embarrassed that he did that, but he never comes out and apologizes for it. So yeah, there is that. This is really sticking in my craw. But as I said, there are other things that he does repeatedly, stupid things that he does, and he gets called out on them. Like, Shanchai does call him out on his behavior, like on the staircase. So it's not, they always point out the problem, but they don't resolve it. So yeah.
The issue I have with like these, because how many times has this been remade now? It's had multiple adaptations. Yeah, and like sometimes, and now this is like the second time that Taiwan is making it. I think it's been remade in Japan as well. Like, I feel like if you're gonna remake something, which the manga of this was first published in 1992. Wow. So the dynamics that were set up, like 25 years ago, like you can't keep remaking the same story. Like, why are you remaking it except as a cash grab if you're not going to change something about the story, or like, see it through a slightly different lens, or like do something different with it? Otherwise, like, what's the point? And why? And then you're just reinforcing those really problematic gender norms and like you're packaging it in this really glossy package of like beautiful people who are eventually going to fall in love. And so like it does kind of undercut that, because like you said, he's still the hero and she's still going to end up with him. So even if she says it's wrong, she's still going to fall in love with him eventually. And you know that as a viewer.
Isn't this entire story sort of predicated on and centered on an abusive, just a group
Like, he
of
falls
bullies,
in love
right?
with her bully. Like,
So
this is really, it's
doesn't
not a
it just
good...
need to stop being remade and sort of be consigned to, the dustbin of history, because that's not what we need to
Like,
see.
No, I mean, I really loved the original Hana Yoridango, but I don't think that it needs to be remade. And if you really have to remake it, is what I'm saying. Like, at least change his character, you know?
He did to a certain extent. Like, if you compare it to the other versions of Dao Mingxi, this one is the most palatable. He is genuinely sweet. He's actually considerate. He doesn't slut shame her. Like, there are situations where his first instinct is to like blame her for a crappy situation that other people have put her in. But then a few moments later, he turns around and he's like, "What am I doing?" There are so many smaller things that they have changed that's made this character more palatable. And seriously, this Daomenshi is much better than his previous incarnations. But there are some broad strokes of this character that has not been changed. And
Right.
may never be changed so long as they keep remaking this story, because after all, as you said, it's predicated on a certain premise, and if they change that, part of that premise is Dao Mingxi's overbearing, bullying character. So yeah, let's see where this guy ends up, because I think we're just I don't even know how many episodes this drama is. But I think we're halfway through or something. So
Okay.
let's see if he actually ends up changing. Oh, on a different note though, Shen Yu, who plays Shansai, she's finally made the heroine character something that someone I can root for, because the previous versions of them, like especially I think was it Zhang Mi? What was the Boys Over Flower girl's name?
Chandi.
Jandi, yeah, I really, really disliked her.
Oh, I hated her so
Like, she
much.
had not one redeeming quality in my eyes. She kept making stupid decisions that ugh. And also she fell for that blonde wigged guy, and that was just stupid. Whereas here, Shansai's best friend, Daminchi's best friend, that guy, I can actually understand her having a crush on, because he's a genuinely nice guy. So yeah, like, and also she is outspoken, and she doesn't actually take like, when she sees Ramen, she bullying someone, she calls him out on it, and she has a core set of principles that she does not compromise for him. So
This
far, I like her.
this sounds like the original heroine in Hana Yoridango. Did you watch the Japanese drama?
I did, but it was like
Yeah.
7 years ago. So
Yeah, no, that was what I loved about her too. Is she was so good. Like, she was so strong and outspoken, and like, she didn't take any crap from him. So I like that. Even after she fell in love with him, she still didn't take any crap from him. So that was a refreshing change.
So now we move on to the ones that have finished airing, and that's Undateable. Anisa, go for it.
Okay, I mean, I don't have a lot to say about this. It's finished airing, but I didn't finish it. I was watching it while I was in extreme pain and under painkillers after getting my wisdom teeth out 2 weeks ago. Yeah, and it was just, I needed something very mindless and fluffy, and it was extremely mindless and fluffy. And I mean, it also goes by the title of Handsome Guy and Jungum, and it's basically just Namgung Min and Hwang Jungam, and he's like a love expert that writes this column about like men and women and relationships and stuff. And she is a couple manager at a matrimonial agency, but like, she's terrible at her job and she's about to get kicked out. They somehow start working together, but they have like 3 random coincidental meetings where everything goes terribly wrong. So they start off on like the completely wrong foot, but they eventually end up falling in love and working together to help her clients. And he is very cold and fashionable and smart, and he treats people a little bit harshly, and then she melts his heart, and she's very much like a doormat. I mean, it's very there's nothing surprising about the story at all. And then it turns out that their dads were enemies. Like, it's not doing anything new.
It sounds like
There's
manufactured
only
mellow.
enough plot for, yeah, it's only enough plot for 12 episodes, but it has 16. I think I got to the end of 14, and like, there's really no more conflict. I mean, they're very cute together, so it's enjoyable to watch them just being cute. But there's nothing really going on, which is why, like, I didn't have any problems with it, but I just kind of, like, lost interest after they got together. I might go back and finish it just to see them. I don't know, see them get married or whatever. But it was a nice, mind-numbing, adorable watch while I was watching it. It didn't really leave a lasting impression.
That's kind of how I feel about What's Wrong with Secretary Kim. Sorry.
Secretary Kim is way better than Handsome Guy Joe. Like, the plot, the writing was really third grade level. Like, it's not. The dialogue was pretty terrible. I don't really recommend that you spend 16 hours of your life on it, is what I'm saying. Which is a shame, because I think for me it was like the wasted potential, because those two actors are so good, and they had like an unrequited storyline in Can You Hear My Heart that like really made me feel a lot of things, and I was like, yes, finally they're reuniting, and then it was just like this mediocre rom-com that was just fine.
Oh, it's really horrible when these really anticipated reunions finally happen, but they're such letdowns.
Yeah, and it wasn't like offensively bad. It was just so dumb and unimpressive, and it's just a shame because they could have put two rookie idol actors who needed some experience under their belts in this role, and they would have been fine. These two actors didn't have to waste their time, so hopefully they'll both get better projects next time.
Well, Nam Kyung-min's had quite a good run, hasn't he? So he was due for a bad drama, I guess.
Yes, but I mean, he so rarely does the romantic hero, and I wanted to see him.
Do you buy him as a, like, does he do romance well?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. In my opinion, at least. I mean, I loved him in Beautiful Gongshim, and then that had such a weird, out of left field ending that just kind of ruined all my goodwill for that show, which was so cute for the first, like, 11, 12 episodes. But he needs to play someone who's a little weird, though. He always, like, he doesn't do well as this, like, generic, cold, chaebol, So, yeah, he needs to have some quirks and something interesting about him. But, yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Lawless Lawyer, we need to talk about this.
Oh, man. I was so ready to talk about this at length, like, a month ago. And now I'm, like, racking my brains. I've actually opened my notes so that I can remember how I felt and what I thought.
Did you guys both watch it? The whole thing?
So I watched the first, like, I think up till they got together, and I watched two more, like, initially when they got together, and then two more episodes after that, because I was like, are they going to break up next? What's going to happen? Something tragic is going to happen instantly afterwards. But yeah.
Oh, you didn't finish it?
No, I haven't finished it. But I will, though it's high on my priority. Now the Secretary Kim is done, that's the one I'm going to go on to. But though there was just one thing that I wanted to say, a little off topic, is that the rumor about the Secretary Kim couple with Park Min Young and Park Sejin dating for 3 years. There was this rumor going on, and then their agencies came out and said, like, that's not true. Their chemistry is so amazing because they're good actors, and that's all there is to it. And so I was talking to someone on Twitter about this, and they pointed out that the other couple who could totally be together and we would be yay about it is probably the Lawless Lawyer couple. And that is so true. I've actually watched more behind the scenes video of this drama than I've actually watched episodes of this drama. So
I haven't watched any. I should go and watch them.
You should, because when they interact, it's I forget the actress's name.
Yeji.
Yeah, Yeji. And Lee Jun Ki. They are, the two of them have, like, they're probably good friends, and they're really good actors. But I just see them and I'm like, yeah, I would totally root for that.
They have really good chemistry.
So yeah, I'm sorry. Go on.
Just this show, I loved it so much. It's been so long since we've had, since Lee Jun Ki's had a project that I've been into. I mean, I dropped Moon Lovers, I kind of wasn't really into that. And of course, Criminal Minds, Interesting Fiasco, that I say we'll never talk about again, but of course I always do. But, like, you're watching this, which is, it's a crime thriller type thing. and Sketch at the same time as well, because they were concurrently airing. And you had Lee Bin in Sketch and Lee Jun-ki here. So you're watching these two shows thinking about Criminal Minds, for what could have been. Because it could have been so good. Because you had all of the acting power there. But, yeah. So
Let it go, Saya. Let it go. Breathe. It's okay.
I will never get over the hours of my life that I lost to that unrewarding, terrible, horrible show. But I have forgiven Oppa, because thank you for Lawless Lawyer. It's like, it's so fun, and it's smart as well, and it has these really wonderful character beats, and the story is not necessarily new, but it all feels like so awesome and kind of just fun, you know. It doesn't go over the top with its villains. The stakes feel real. They don't feel like, you know, cartoonish or anything. And there's this gangster bromance in there, which is just the best. Like, everything about it is good, and I guess it's on the lighter end of the. It's like, its crimey bits are serious, but it's ultimately not dark. And then at the other end of that, you have Sketch, which is very dark. And I realized after I finished it, and I've talked about Sketch, I think, in the last two Yaks, so I won't go too far into it, but I think, just to sum it up, Sketch is a story of anti-heroes, and I think every minute, like, beginning to end, every bit of it was good for me. So the last cycle was really, it was a good cycle for thrillers. And
nice.
I thought that my I was on like a 2.5 year thriller binge where I barely watched anything but thrillers, and in the last, like, since the beginning of the year, I've just been watching romances and stuff, and I finally could enjoy romances again. I was like, oh cool, so I don't need thrillers to survive, and now I'm like, I need thrillers to survive. Thank you, Lawless Lawyer and Sketch.
Awesome. Are we ready to talk about what's wrong with Secretary Kim?
I want to keep the one that all three of us has watched for the end. So, Saya, it's still you.
Still me. I feel like I've talked for 80% of this podcast, and nobody wants to hear my voice anymore.
We always want to hear your voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully our listeners agree with us. I think they do.
What if they write in saying, no, stop talking, Saya?
Please send us your feedback at starsinourpodcast@gmail.com.
Or tweet to us.
If you want Saya to stop talking, please let us know.
Shall I start early? Okay, no, I'll carry on. So Argon, powerful stuff. So Argon as a drama, Argon as a social commentary, two different things. So, but brilliantly did both. And of course, very sadly, Kim Ji-wook, who passed away in an accident soon after that. If that's the last work that you leave, that is one juggernaut of a swan song. You know, that it's actually really sad watching it. Because he says,
I mean, I'm really glad that his last drama was good, but honestly, like, I was really excited for that, and then he passed away, and I just couldn't watch it. Like, I don't think I've ever cried as much after a celebrity died as I cried after he died. Like, so I still haven't watched it.
Yeah, I think it's hardest for you because you've followed his, you know, variety stuff and his other work, and I've never seen him in anything until this. So I get it. I wouldn't be able to, if I'd known him outside of this, I don't think I'd have been able to watch it, because it was hard just knowing what happened as well. It was full of, like, quotable moments, and it's really hard to talk about, actually. It's amazing how relevant it hasn't been that long since it aired, but it's, you know, in this world of alternative facts and, you know, the news being a horror show daily, it's still so relevant, and I can see it remaining very relevant for quite a while. Like, we know how much, you know, news is driven by corporate or political agendas, and in this world you have, you know, Kim Ji-wook's character, what was his name? Hold on. Oh, Kim Baek-jin. So in this world, you have Kim Ji-hyuk's character, Kim Baek-jin, who is the lead and the anchor of an investigative news program. And his character is really interesting because he's shown to be very unbending when it comes to truth and facts. So he's always about telling the truth, even at his own expense, and that is kind of the thread that underruns his character from beginning to end. I think I'm not going to say too much more about it, but there was one line that he said that really, really kind of stayed with me long after I finished watching the drama, where he's trying to justify to his boss, because they need permission to air certain things, and he wants to expose something that the higher ups, that's what they're called, right? The higher ups don't want to expose. And he says this one thing that stayed with me, which is that the viewers should not believe news reports but judge them. And I find that really a striking and interesting statement.
Yeah.
So that is my last word on Argon. It's worth watching.
Nice.
if you can.
Do you think that it's like in tone? Would you say that it's like an optimistic tone with a lot of critical analysis, or would you say it's like kind of a depressing tone that's just like everything is terrible and news like would you call it uplifting, or is it like good but kind of not very hopeful?
It's not depressing.
Not
I
depressing,
think.
okay.
Yeah, it is. It's hopeful.
Okay, because I'm asking because like I want to recommend something to my dad to watch.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
but
yeah.
I recommended a lot of depressing stuff to him, so then now he's like, I don't want to watch depressing things. But like he loves watching the news, so I feel like this would be really like he watches CNN all the time, which like drives me nuts. But it's basically, I think it's just he just has that kind of personality.
Get him to watch Lawless Lawyer. I think he'd like that.
Okay. I'll see if
it's not
available.
Depressing and it's not dark, but it does make valuable commentary, and it does leave you with a feeling of hope.
Okay, thank you.
And do you guys have like a final word on Walk of Love?
Oh, I do. Anisa, finish
I
it.
never got back to it after since the last time we talked about it. I haven't had a chance to go back to it.
So I did.
I'd like
back
to hear
it.
what you think.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But it's so like when the dramas start off so sort of special and different and quirky and weird and kind of magical, and then they retire their weirdness and embrace the standard tropes and the conventional conflicts, and you're like, why? Even the talking horse vanished and made a token appearance at the end without even talking! He didn't even talk! And like, what was that about? You just abandoned him for the whole show, and then it became they had the whole snobby mother won't approve thing, and then you're just having Pretty Nuna flashbacks, which clearly has scarred me. Why that drama? and you just why? Yeah, and they had so many plot lines that were like interesting and stuff, and they just got dropped. And I was disappointed. I felt like it wasn't written very well. It was carried on the only reason you carry on watching is because the cast is still amazing and their chemistry is really, off the charts. But by the end, it felt like Jang-hyuk was in one drama and the other two were in another drama, and they just occupied the same airspace. Why?
Yeah, I felt from this. I mean, I've only watched I think 14 episodes, but I did feel from the beginning, like even though I really love this writer and I've really loved like Jealousy Incarnate and like Miss Korea and Pasta and some of their other stuff, like it did feel like this was even more like very disparate elements that she was bringing together and a lot of different plot lines, and it was even more than Jealousy Incarnate, which already had a lot, but at least I feel like there was more of a uniting tone and a uniting kind of idea of like what she wanted.
Like the show knew where it was going, and in this one the show seemed to have forgotten where it was going.
I mean, there never really was a feeling of where it was going, even from the beginning.
That's very true. But you know how that can work, the way it worked in Jealousy Incarnate, and it just it didn't come together enough.
No.
So yeah.
No, and Jealousy Incarnate came together a lot earlier than this, which I don't know if it ever really did come together, but it was just very unfocused and all over the place. So I don't know. I mean, I didn't watch the second half, but that's just how I felt from
And the weird thing is that I think the cast chemistry is much better in this than it was in Jealousy. Which may sound sacrilegious, but honestly,
really?
I think so.
Interesting. Well, the bromance was weak to me in Jealousy Incarnate. I didn't really buy the bromance between the two best friends that were in love with the same girl.
Whereas in this, the bromance game was strong, and so was the romance, but it somehow didn't capitalize on everything that it had. So it was disappointing.
So maybe the conclusion is the gangsters and the cooking have to stay in separate dramas?
Well, the gangsters worked, but it was like Jang-Hyuk's character, his actual arc, not his gangsters, but the actual his character development. It all went with, you know, his mum, and it went off in a completely different direction. Like, it diverged so far that it was weird that they were in the same drama at all.
Was it like too much time spent on like this backstory of the characters and not enough time spent on their actual
interactions? It wasn't backstory, it was actual sort of present story. It was just a different story. And, yeah, it felt very sort of like, you know, separate vignette-y type of, not, yeah. They were very disparate, and they didn't, you know, they diverged without coming back together soon enough or effectively enough.
That's too bad for this cast. It's a shame.
Yeah. But if it weren't for the cast, then it wouldn't have worked. With a weaker cast, the drama itself would have just fallen apart completely.
Yeah, in episode 1. No, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, there was no way I would have watched another episode if it wasn't for the performances of those three.
I with like Jung Yeon, I like her so much, and I think she's got an edge on Gong Hyo-jin for me. She just has something else, a little bit more sparkle, a little bit more impishness. I really love her.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, she's amazing.
So I feel like I would probably watch anything that she does, you know, going forward.
She has more mischief in her eyes.
Yeah, and she does.
Yeah.
So I will continue to watch her, but I hope she has a better ending next time.
Yeah. Okay, so finally, what's wrong with Secretary Kim?
I can tell you what was wrong with it. It was way too long. It needed to stop at 12 episodes.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really did.
I appreciated all the cute scenes and the romanciness, and just those 4 episodes was just fan service.
Filler.
And those filler, but just fan service. It's like, oh, you guys like these two together, so here, take 4 more episodes of completely bullshit obstacles that are no obstacles at all.
That I began to not enjoy it because of that. Because, you know, good things need to also be in measured doses. Because
I also feel like there was an obstacle that they could have written about, and they just completely swept it under the rug.
The whole job thing. I have a really big problem with the way they're talking about the ending. Let's do it.
Okay, I want to go into the way that things ended, because I have extremely huge issues. Why is it that she started this drama wanting to leave and find herself and figure out what her dream is, because she put her life on hold for the last 9 years being his secretary, and now her dream is to be his secretary? Like, what the hell? Am I the only one that was bothered by that?
I have a problem with that. I don't have an inherent problem with her liking and wanting to stay at her job, but I felt that they didn't, like you say, they swept it under the carpet, and it was just... you needed to deal with that more, because otherwise you've undermined the entire premise of the drama, in fact. Which is not that it was a romantic journey, but it was a journey of finding yourself.
Right.
And And
then her figuring out what she really wants to do instead of just doing what he wants all the time. But even by the end...
Sorry, go on.
She was still doing what he wanted all the time. And I mean, she did kind of put up a token thing of like, a protest, but it wasn't really a protest. Like, she's like, oh, you're being a bulldozer. But they still end up doing everything that he wants to do in the end.
Yeah,
so
like, you know, with the whole wedding dress thing, I thought that, like, you could see that, you know, she's like, oh, you're choosing the wedding dress, and then she didn't, like, she just, like, acceded to it, and you're like, weren't you gonna
And then
say
she's like,
something?
sorry, I'm always working, and you're having to do all the work.
Yeah,
I was like,
and
no,
it's like,
he's
no.
being in control. Yeah, there was no, I mean, like, they needed some conflict in the last few episodes, and I was really hoping that they would address this whole dynamic they have where, like, he talks to her in Banmal, and he talks to her really casually, and she's still using, like, her super formal secretary voice with him, even when they're not at work and they're in their personal time.
And that she still
And I was
addresses
like-
him as, you know, Pujangnim. And
Yeah.
it's like, can you not?
And you know, the weird thing is, I can practically see these two like 20 years later, and she's still calling him vice chairman. In my head, that's what's happening. Because it's really hard to break out of that habit. And if you don't do it while you're dating, then when the hell are you going to do it?
Maybe after
Like,
marriage.
Yeah, but the dynamic is so set, and he doesn't like it. He doesn't. He mimics her at one point, though, and I find that completely adorable. But yeah, she cannot break out of that way of speaking.
For once, I didn't have a problem on his side. He was, you know, like, he wanted her to call him Oppa. He wanted her to talk to him, like, more casually. It was her that just wouldn't change, and it was, like, very mystifying why she wouldn't change. Like, even if she has to keep that up at work, like, why would she not change her? You know, and then there's that whole thing of, like, where her dad is like, well, when she's smiling, it's not always how she feels. But then they never address that. She just keeps smiling and going along with everything until
Yeah,
the end.
you know, by the end, well, by the last few weeks, every time she smiled, it actually really bothered me because it's one thing to be the secretary and fake smile, but to be the girlfriend and then the wife and to still be fake smiling, that's really, like, there's something wrong. You know, there's something wrong with Secretary Kim. And the other thing that I felt, just to rewind a little bit to what you were saying a little bit earlier, Anisa, is that I felt that she actually needed to leave. Like, even if she came back,
100%.
she needed to leave in the first place, just to not be in that environment. Go and do something else. Try something else.
Yeah, and also when they were like, you only have a week left of your month, I was like, wait, what? Like, it's not even 3 weeks? Are you serious? It felt like 3 months had passed.
I think 3 months had
since
passed.
Since she gave her notice. Yeah.
In airing
No,
time.
there is also a consistency problem in the drama, because if you guys remember in the first third of the drama, they suddenly had this situation where some kind of a opening of a gallery thing had been pulled up by a month. And they had like a month to prepare instead of 2 months to prepare. So they did have a month of preparation going in there. It's very weird. They didn't have
she was
the time
supposed to quit after that. She was supposed to leave after that event, but instead they have like 3 more weeks of stuff happening. Like, it just makes
Exactly. Like, ideally they should have had like 2 months to do all of this stuff in. If like, even that's a pretty tight schedule, but still, like, 1 month was just, there is no way so much happened in like that period of time.
No, I have had her actually. Sorry, go ahead.
I agree with you guys that they had so many strings that they could have actually pulled into proper plot threads, but they just abandoned them randomly. One of the things that I really wanted them to deal with after the initial, you know, he wants her to stay and then realizes he has feelings for situation happened, is that once they start their relationship, the disparity between their class should have come up more. The backbiting that happens for like that 1/2 episode where some people are like, oh, that's why she's in such a high position, she must have been sleeping with the vice chairman for all of the 9 years. Of that is what people do in real workplace, especially when there is the, you know, a romance, it becomes public between someone superior and a subordinate. That is absolutely the reaction that was some people in workplace have. They should have dealt with that more. Instead, it became this.
They ran away.
Yeah, and also their colleagues went and defended, and apparently nobody bitched again. Or she was perfectly fine with it. She was clearly not fine with it. Like, her face showed that she hated being talked about like that. And that was primarily the reason she didn't want the office romance to be outed, because she was going to be put in that uncomfortable situation, which Park Seo-joon's character didn't realize and she didn't tell him. And then it came out and he was like, oh great, I wanted it to be known anyway. And it never occurs to him the situation, the position she would be put in once it becomes public, because nobody's
And she never, yeah, and she never said, see, this is why I didn't want us to become public. She's like, oh, well, when I started dating you, I was expecting it. I was like, what?
Yeah, even in their dating life, she's his subordinate. That's how, like, there are, as you said, there are moments when she puts her foot down and she will not do what he wants her to do, but those are rare. Usually, she's very passive. She goes along with whatever he wants. Like, her face might show that she's not completely cool with it, but she'll just go. Like, initially, we found it super cute when she would just, like, he would say something narcissistic and she would smile and she would agree. It would have been nice if at one point they would have been like, okay, enough with that. Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up with the aura thing. I would have really liked that. Because
no, instead of saying that, she's like, only do that around me. I'm like, what? What? Okay.
Yeah.
Save your narcissism and lordliness for when we're alone
and
together.
also, what
That's
was that?
really
What was that dumbass of the stupid conflict they put in the last episode, where she's taken him to this cafe where she's had coffee with her one blind date, and he's freaking out, and they are comparing that situation to this woman, to her colleague taking her boyfriend to a restaurant she used to frequent with an ex, and they meet the ex and they have a drama, and they're like, oh, that's completely the same situation. No, it's
and it's like, if you feel upset, you've clearly done something wrong, so you have to apologize. And then she ends up apologizing for something that she didn't need to apologize for.
That was so weird.
It was super weird and just, yeah.
No,
I mean, I love these two together, but I wanted her to like show more backbone, and she just seemed to show less. Like, she was showing more backbone in the beginning of the drama, where her position was secure. She knew where she was, and like what her position was, how important she was in his life. She was absolutely secure and confident about herself. She showed more backbone then than she did at the end of the drama, where she is in a situation where she's clearly coming from a lower economic strata and becoming a chaebol wife, and she knows that she is in a weaker position. You can tell that from her interactions. And even though she tells her mother-in-law that I can't be receiving gifts, I mean, that just makes me feel just as bad as, you demanding gifts from me. She doesn't say it, but yeah, that situation happens.
Yeah.
But and even though the mother-in-law is all, yeah, I understand, I'm so sorry, made you uncomfortable. But the thing is, there is an economic disparity, and especially in this country, in East Asian and South Asian countries, this is a very real thing. In any country, actually, the economic background of a couple matters, especially when they are going to be, like, I'm assuming, joining accounts. They're going to be joining property. What one couple brings and the other couple brings does influence what their like private dynamic is, like who's stronger. Like the financially stronger couple is usually stronger in other things as well. They have more of a say. So like
in real life terms, like money is the number one problem, like reason that people get divorced. And like we said, like they kind of did lip service to all these different things without actually addressing them properly. And like I remember when we were first starting this drama and we were like, oh, this actually seems, to be kind of flipping the script on some of these things. And we were like, oh, it might actually be interesting because they're still in those stereotypical positions of boss and secretary, but it looks like they're actually going to do something interesting with it. But nope, in the end, they just reinscribed those same norms, and they just kind of doubled down on those same, like, gender dynamics, and I don't know.
It really starts off really exciting.
Character is, as Saya had in a previous episode, Park Seo-joon's character is fine. There's nothing like he's trying to be as sensitive as possible, but he can't do this alone, right? Park Min-young's character also had to like step up. She had to act like his equal. He's trying to pull her up and make her act like his equal, but she keeps insisting on staying his subordinate, and that's become the dynamic of their relationship.
And she, in the beginning, she was doing that, and then like at a certain point,
she was being sassy. She was talking back at him, and there were times when, and it was hilarious because like she was utilizing the power that she had within the limits of her position, and she knew she was indispensable, so she was confident in her position. Now, she seems to have been put in a weaker position now that she's both wife and his secretary.
She needs
And
to
also,
not
like,
be his secretary.
No, I like when there was this episode near the end where he finally realizes why she actually after he talks to her dad and realizes how much she sacrificed, and after he kind of sees what's been going on in the past, like he kind of opens his eyes and he's like, oh, I should let you go. And then he tells her, I'm gonna let you go, and he like finally understands. But now it's like she doesn't get it anymore. Like what's her reason? Like, people still need me, and I'm happy, and I'm good at this job. But like,
yeah, she's jealous
his
that
secretary.
her position might go. It just
She can be somebody else's. She can be a high-powered secretary that works for someone else. She doesn't need to work for him if that's really her dream.
Yeah, but she is comfortable in that position, so she doesn't want to give it up. But you know what? Again, as Visaya said, I don't have a problem with her staying in her position. It's because, contrary to what popular the way people talk about following your dream thing is, most people find out that they're good at something by doing that thing.
Yeah, no, that's
so
true.
She is so good at this job. She knows that, like, she excels at it. So, and that's a really good feeling to know that you excel at something. So that is great. She could have come back to it, as you said, after a period of going out into the world, and it's so, because
it's like,
she
take
was
a sabbatical, girl.
Yeah,
just take a year off.
If the continuity hadn't been messed up and she'd actually quit after the opening of that art gallery, and then she had taken like a month or 2 months to explore her options, and then she came back, and during that time they were like getting closer and falling in love and stuff, and then she decided to come back. Like, that would have actually worked okay.
Yeah, and really, honestly, they should have just dated more. Like, she should have stopped being his secretary. They should have dated for a longer period of time, and she could have come back as a secretary, and they could have gotten married. It was such a simple thing to do, and it would have established their dynamic. She needed to stop being his subordinate before they got married.
Yeah.
Seriously, it influences the way she behaves with him all the time.
Because she never gets out of secretary mode.
She's always.
It's really creepy when they're like taking their relationship all the way, and she's still in secretary mode. Like, what?
Yeah, and simple things like her pouring his water and him realizing that he's been doing this for so many years as his secretary and he's taken it for granted, but now he wants her to behave, like she's his girlfriend, not his secretary. But she's still behaving like his secretary. So again, that break really needed to happen. And they seemed to address it at that point, and then, as you said, they just dropped it.
Yeah. I think it's more annoying because they acknowledge it, but then it never goes anywhere, It's almost more annoying because of that.
So they clearly know it's problematic.
This did the same thing as Walk of Love, in that they just reverted to known and tried and very tired tropes, and it just became a very conventional, unsatisfying conclusion to what started off really well.
Yeah, seems to be the theme today.
Apparently.
I wanna give a shout out to the secondary couples. Like, I know that you
I really like the Goginam and the, what was her name, the other secretary, Kim.
Gia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really cute.
They were cute. Like, I hated him in the beginning, but I actually really found him cute by the end.
Yeah.
Also, Laura was annoying, but Young Bisoni was so cute. Secretary Young, or like Driver Young, he was so adorable.
And the superhero music that would happen whenever he
I know.
My hero.
My hero.
No, I enjoyed the secondary romances a lot. So,
I really did want Kang Kyung's character, was it Yushik?
To be with the
I was so shipping them. I was really disappointed that that didn't happen, because they would have been great together. They were so cute.
But you know what? Here's the thing. He's not gonna last with his ex-wife. They just predicated on lies, and it's just not gonna work out. He didn't divorce out of nothing. They were together for 10 years and divorced.
True.
That relationship is not going to last, and Secretary Sol is still there. So,
True.
and he clearly is fond of her, so I have some hopes.
I loved their dynamic so much. Like, you know, she'd come in the morning and he'd be like, okay, what have you done today? And it's like, it never occurs to him that you can get a new secretary, right? He's such a great boss.
He's like got his spare shirts in the cabinet for when she's gonna spill stuff on him. He's just ready. So cute. I kind of wish that this drama had had them as the main couple,
Yeah,
and
I
like
would
Secretary
take
Kim
that.
and Youngjun were like happening in the background. That would have been so great.
Oh, he needs
And
a
he
spin-off.
gave the best relationship advice. Like throughout, I have so many so many nuggets of his wisdom
Yeah.
given to.
So it's
Take
like
the
they
underwear off your
know.
heart. Take off the underwear from your heart. That was my favorite.
That was a really good line.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
Oh, I was also mad that like Yushik got shafted by his best friend so much when he was like having his own time of pain. Youngjun was like, whatever. Who cares about your pain? Back to my problem.
Did you find that Youngjun's character was a little bit kind of not quite congruous? As in, he'd have his, you know, narcissist moment, and then he'd be that, you know, sensitive, soulful, considerate person, and that they didn't quite.
Yeah, but as
match?
with all Korean drama, Chaebos, he's only sensitive and considerate where Kim Mi-so is concerned. Like, who else was he considerate towards? Seriously.
No, but like, you know, when he would get deep and thoughtful. Sorry,
But
go
like he
on.
points it out himself, he's like, I'm really amazing, but for you, I'm making this exception, and you're gonna have the honor of having my whatever, like my love and my for the rest of my life. So like he's not being subtle about the fact that she's the only exception to the rule.
I needed her to shout at him at least once, like call him and ask to his face, like the way she had that breakdown initially where she called him a narcissist, like where he was chasing her and she like wooing, trying to peculiarly woo her, and she called him a narcissist. I needed that to happen once they were in a relationship. That would have stabilized the dynamic so much more. Because once he confesses his love to her, it's like she can't shake the boat. And that is the beginning of a really messed up dynamic.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
You know what it is? You never get the feeling that she feels 100% free to speak their mind in her mind, and to tell him and to call him out on his BS. And even when he makes some kind of development or he realizes that he's done something wrong, it's never because she told him. It's like he's so amazing that he just figured it out on his own.
Or Yushik tells him.
True. Yeah,
Yushik tells him,
Usually Yushik has told him.
And you know what? To Youngjun's credit, he seems to know that Yushik calls his bullshit because he does go to him a lot when he can't figure out his problems. And he acts on Yushik's advice.
He does, yeah.
The other
I
thing
kind of loved her sisters, though. Her sisters were awesome.
Yeah, her sister's one. Her father needed to not come into the picture at all. I don't know why they thought that was necessary. I was just generally not okay with his character to begin with, and yeah, it was randomly thrown in. Yeah.
On a purely shallow and extremely fluffy and non-critical note, though, I did enjoy the fact that we got to see like the whole wedding, like
sure.
with the dress and the tuxedo and the speech, like, and the guests eating food and like with the. I mean, I feel like it was very old school in that way, where like nowadays it's like it's been so overdone to have the whole wedding and everything that like we don't really see it that often. And like they're just two extremely beautiful people that look gorgeous getting married, so I kind of just appreciate it. I know it's like not doesn't really have any critical value, but I enjoyed that part of fan service. She looks really nice in a wedding dress, and he looks amazing in tux, and they're very cute.
Venue was that the same place they had the Jealousy Incarnate wedding? Because it looked a bit like it.
It looked very similar.
They all look the same, man. I mean, even
I don't feel like one wedding hall looks like or so.
Yeah. That's like the generic wedding hotel thing.
No, because it had the whole stage, you know, where Jo Jung-suk did his song and everything. So it
lives in this garden house.
Oh yeah, of course.
The hospital where her dad was being kept overnight was the same hospital as the one where what's his name wakes up. The Live Up to Your Name guy.
Oh, was it?
So
I didn't notice
yeah.
that.
I recognize some of the way the walls were constructed. So I'm sure they use a lot of these drama locations.
Well, I
over and over again.
discovered last night. I discovered this website called Korean Dramaland, where they list drama locations, so you can actually go and look up dramas and locations. So it's KoreanDramaland.com.
Interesting. And there's this beanie that posts a lot on Drama Beans who, like, her son's school is, like, an international private school. And,
yeah.
they film a lot of dramas at that school, so, like, she went and visited the set when Airs was filming there, and I think maybe, like, it was, like, Sassy Go-Go or some other school also.
Yeah.
Or
was it
they also
School
filmed another school drama. Maybe School 2018, yeah.
17.
That's interesting. 2017, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I remember reading those comments. They were really fun.
That was an interesting behind-the-scenes look.
But yeah, I spent like 2 hours on this website last night when I should have been sleeping. They have this whole long feature piece for I'm Not a Robot, so of course I clicked on every single one.
How not? I mean, there's no choice.
Because you know his estate is like, you know, you look at it and you're like, wow, I want to live there. Turns out that it's a place called Battery Park, which is, oh, hold on, this isn't even interesting, but yeah, Battery Park somewhere in my history. There it is.
Oh, since you're talking about locations, did you notice how initially the shots of Youngjoon's house was basically the same shots as the Secret Garden house and the whole glass facade thing? And when they realize that people are really, they keep going like, oh, it's like the Secret Garden house.
And they changed it to a nighttime insert.
Yeah, no, it's not just that. They changed the angle of the house. They changed where, you know, the introductory scenes that they do, where they show you insert a shot of the house, and then the scene of how inside the house starts. They changed the angle of that completely, so that it might be the same house, but it's no longer the same
perspective. Yeah, I actually noticed that. I didn't think about the fact that they would have done it for that reason. That's interesting.
No, they definitely did it for that reason. One other point before we go off to upcoming dramas, or if you guys have something to say, is Youngjoon's parents are horrible people. They're just horrible people. I mean, yeah, they're very nice superficially. They like Kim Mi-so. It's not just the decision that they made about their children's lives, like letting one boy believe, like they did something horrible. They, instead of getting their older son
therapy,
therapy, they just ignored the problem and let their younger son shoulder the burden of believing that he had done something horrible. Like, even if he doesn't remember, why would you let your son believe that he's done something horrible to his brother when he has not done it? Why would you do that? They're terrible people. And then towards the end, for no good reason, the mom has been perfectly cool with Kim Mi-so and Youngjoon having a relationship. She's been rooting for it.
And suddenly she's not okay.
No, she's not okay because she's like, oh, but your brother has a crush on me, so you know, maybe this is not a good thing. And
the only redeeming part of that was that it took like 10 seconds to get resolved. I was like, oh, thank God.
That's not even redeeming, because, I mean, they could not have done anything else with it, but that just shows you so much about how this woman's mind works, this fictional woman's mind works.
Well, she's not better in Dear Judge either.
She's a horrible judge of everything. She's just horrible, and she's going to be a terrible mother-in-law to Mi-so. Okay, I know she's all nice and polite and sweet, and she'll apologize and she'll take jewelry meant for Mi-so because Mi-so said no to one thing. Yeah, funny, haha. But
that was really messed up. I was like, what?
I'm telling you guys, she's gonna be like she worse mother-in-law than all other drama mother-in-laws. She has the makings of someone who's gonna smile at you and do terrible things, and you will not be able to say anything to her face. Yeah, sorry.
No, I mean, that's pretty spot on. I can't disagree.
Yeah.
I'm busy chewing, which is why I'm not saying anything.
I enjoyed all the skinship though. I was very happy while whenever these two were all like, oh, yeah. I was very happy with that.
I know what you live for.
Yeah, well, I am shallow.
On that note, shall we move on to the upcoming drama?
Yeah.
I think we should. It's been like 3 hours.
So, August 1st, we have Familiar Wife coming up, which is Ji-sung. Yay!
Yay!
And Han Ji-min,
Yeah.
which is, Han Ji-min is fine. She's solid. I don't have a lot of emotions about her, but basically the premise is that they've been married for 5 years. I guess the spark is gone, or he's like, you're not the girl that I remember marrying, or whatever, and then there's some element of, it says he makes the choice, but I think there's an element, it's listed as romance, fantasy, time travel, so I guess he goes back in time to before they met. Basically, it has consequences for everyone in their life, so that's the premise.
And then
is
they're
a little,
suddenly unmarried. And I'm assuming that he remembers being married to her. Otherwise, the premise would not have been written that way.
Probably.
So he's suddenly in this alternate reality, and she's not his wife.
Right.
So yeah.
So it changes their lives in the present day, basically. And the thing that interests me about it, other than the fact that it's starring Ji-sung, which is always a great thing, is it's this director of Shopping King Louis and the writer of, or one of the writers of Weightlifting Fairy and High School King of Savvy. So like, we love those dramas. So it just sounds like a really cute time travel rom-com from the premise. So I'm excited.
I feel like it's
Anybody
been
else?
so long since I've seen Ji-sung in a romance that I'm kind of like, romance? Ji-sung? Because I
feel like the romance in Kill Me, Heal Me was really good, though.
it was quite a long time ago, though. And since then, we've had Defendant and...
That's true.
What else? Anyway, Entertainer, which we
Just
shall never speak of again.
Yeah, Entertainer and Defendant. Yeah, I didn't watch Entertainer, but...
So, like...
I want to see him smiling and not crying, to be honest. I would appreciate that.
That's a very
Defendant
good point.
was tough. It was rough. Yeah.
I think I'm just in a thriller mood, so I'm like, why is Ji-sung coming back in something that isn't a thriller?
Let the poor guy be happy, Saya.
He's happy in real life! Can he be unhappy in Dramaland? He does, amazing things when he's unhappy in Dramaland.
Yeah, maybe, but I just need to see him smiling.
Yeah.
Fine, you guys are gonna get what you want.
I'm sure he'll come back to thrillers next year.
I hope so.
Yeah. And then on August 11th, there's Voice 2. That's going to be on OCN.
Yeah, but it doesn't have Jang-hyuk.
It doesn't need him either.
Voice
That whole
2,
drama.
yeah, it's Lee Jin-wook and Lee Hana. So they're basically it's the emergency call center where they have to get things within the golden time.
Did either of you guys watch Voice, the first one?
I
just watched a couple of episodes, and yeah, you're right. I guess Jang-hyuk was not exactly the center of the.
Jang-hyuk also said that he's done with this drama because he feels like his character has gone everywhere it needed to go, and there's no further, there's nowhere else for his character to go. He's had closure,
Interesting.
And that's that's true.
It sounds like a very basic procedural to me, just from.
Well, I watched the first one, and
oh, you did. Okay.
I did, yeah, and I'm really yeah. There's enough in the premise to bring it back as a procedural, but I didn't like. It was really, really like brutal. So in terms of on-screen violence and stuff, there was a lot of it.
The trailer looks like
this was one of those shows where the fights just went on for too long and they were boring and they were just no. Yeah.
Well, it's OCN, right? So I'm not
OCN
surprised.
has made pretty good dramas, but Voice.
But they tend to lean hard on the action, don't they?
But they still have a decent, plot and character development stuff going on. I'm still scarred from the first one, so just the thought of a second one is making me angry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna watch that probably. Oh, and just to let you guys know, Familiar Wife is gonna be airing on TVN. I forgot to mention that. Okay, another one that's got a very, perhaps some might say, an appropriate title. It's called Lovely Horribly. It's a romance drama starring Park Ji-hoo as the romantic lead. So yeah, it's on KBS, of course, and it's listed as a rom-com / horror, which is basically horror is my reaction to. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
And didn't the director of that have a scandal recently about? Oh, well, I don't know if you call it a scandal, but he made an inappropriate comment to one of the crew or cast. Hold on, should I talk about this before I look it up?
I did not hear about that, so I don't know.
Let me quickly see if I can find it. So the PD of Lovely Horribly makes insensitive remark. This is on Koala's Playground. Insensitive remark comparing bad acting to Seoul Ferry grieving parents, and that was obviously
Good lord.
Yeah, like
My
not
God.
received well. So why would you
But
say
I mean, what
something
do you
like
expect
that?
from someone who decided to choose Park Ji-hoo for their romantic lead in their project? Like,
Burn.
Yeah, that's basically it was the first thing you think, isn't it?
mm-hmm.
So I guess none of us are watching this.
Absolutely not. And the last one is listed. It's not listed for an air date, but I think it's airing after what's currently airing on KBS at that time. Hang on, I'll look it up just to let people have an idea of when it's going to start. It's starting after Your House Helper ends. So it's called The Ghost Detective. It's airing on KBS. It's got Daniel Choi and Park Eun-bin and Lee Ji-ah. So I love both of those people, but it sounds like he's dishonorably discharged from the military, and she becomes his assistant. He's a private investigator, and they work together on solving mysteries.
Sounds quite fun.
Yeah, horror thriller is what it's listed as.
Who's
So
writing?
It sounds fun. Writing, I haven't heard of the writer, but it's the director of Chief Kim and Page Turner, so that's pretty cool.
Ooh, both are pretty solid.
Yeah. Oh, the writer wrote
Wanted. Didn't you recap
Yeah.
this?
I did recap. It was my first ever recapping. I liked it. A lot of people said it was not a good that they didn't do a good job, but I thought it was enjoyable and good and tense and
Oh, well, I'm glad
but I'm
you've
also
said
not
that.
a connoisseur of like thrillers. So maybe my standards for thrillers are not as like exacting as some other people who watch them all the time, but I enjoyed it. I think more people's complaints about that were that the actress wasn't expressive enough and that they didn't find her to be emotive enough for a woman who lost her child. Yeah.
But
I thought
she's
she was
really
fine.
emotive. I mean, judging from Live Up to Your Name, at least. She's perfectly
She was
capable
better
of
in Live Up
emotion.
to Your Name. Like, she was amazing in Live Up to Your Name. In Wanted, she was a little bit more restrained, but I also just felt like that was a character choice. That because she had grown up since age 7, she was a child actress too, so she was just not used to expressing her emotions in public. So I felt it worked for the character. So, yeah, I mean, I think it sounds good to me. I might check it out.
I'm gonna check it
I
out.
think it's a good team, yeah. Daniel Choi is always awesome. Park Eun-bin is always awesome, so yeah.
But what does the ghost part of the title refer to?
So some of their cases involve ghosts. That's all it says.
Actually, ghosts is making me rethink this. I'm not a horror person. Okay, you check it out and tell me if I can handle it. I get scared very easily.
Okay, I mean, I think I would be more into this if it was like a horror comedy, but it's listed as a horror thriller, so I think it just really depends on the tone of the first episode, whether it's going to be like... Because with this director, it could go in both ways, because Chief Kim had a really amazing, like, funny tone that still managed to be really heartwarming, and just like my obligatory PSA, go watch Chief Kim if you haven't seen it. It's amazing. It will make you happy, and it will make your day better. But... he also did Page Turner, which was Page Turner like really scary. Did you guys watch
No. Page Turner was cute.
Okay, so maybe this will be more. Oh right, that one. Okay, you guys mentioned it before. It's with Jisoo, right? And,
and Kim So-yeon.
Kim So-yeon, yeah. So maybe it'll have like the thriller elements while also being kind of heartwarming. Who knows? I can go for that.
I think we should wait for the trailer to figure this out, because like Daniel Choi is not exactly my favorite, but again, the crew behind the thing is making me optimistic. So let's just wait for the trailer.
Yeah, I like him. In the right role, he can be really good. So yeah, they haven't released the trailer yet. So once they release that, then we'll have a better idea about what it's going to be like. So yeah, that's what's coming up in August. It's a much shorter list than July. Thank God, because we don't have enough hours in the day to watch everything.
Yeah, man,
already.
that was one long list.
Yeah. So the question of the yak.
Question of the yak.
Yeah.
So, in keeping with the theme of this, what has kind of turned into the theme of this episode, I want to ask, like, dramas in which the heroine became less of a badass after she fell in love and became disappointing.
No.
Which I assume
Most drama.
Yeah. Although I'm going to consult my list to see because I can't remember what I've watched, to see which one's the most egregious.
Yeah, what was like memorable? I mean, there's a lot of them that are kind of, but for me, like Secret Garden was the big one.
Oh yeah.
Where she was so badass in the beginning and she was so independent and so tough, and then she just became like this depressed doormat that never raised her voice. Yeah. It was really egregious. Do you guys have
I've got kind
ones?
of an opposite answer to this, actually. Because this is a drama that really scarred me. Young Pearl, where you had Kim Tae-hee. So, in the first half of the drama, she's kind of normal and... Well, not normal, she was in a coma for like 1,000 years. But the second half of the drama, she just turns into like a queen of the underworld and, self-styled crocodile queen. And she's nuts. So, yeah.
So
That
a
was
different
crazy.
type of change in the heroine's
Yeah.
character. Yeah.
And this is after she fell in love. It was just, that was a very weird drama.
I feel like Park Min-young kind of did this in City Hunter too.
I think she was kind of not badass to start with. I mean, I love City Hunter,
I mean, she
but I
was
didn't find
she was a
her-
bodyguard. So like they have this one where she like tries to, like they have a physical fight at one point where she doesn't know where he's like in his mask and.
But she's never particularly threatening or effective as a bodyguard.
Yeah, and she's
I guess
also
that's true. She's never really. Yeah, that's
Control.
true. She's never really that much of a badass, despite her job description. She's too cuddly to be a threatening bodyguard. I don't know. She doesn't have that kind of vibe.
Man is
Paroma, do you have any that stick in your minds?
I can, for some bizarre reason, right now I can't think of any heroines who started off as badass and then, because I can't think of too many badass heroines to begin with.
Well, I mean, they don't necessarily have to be like badass in the physical sense.
No, I
but
mean
just really-
badass in the father is strange eldest sister way,
Yeah,
and like
exactly.
you say badass throughout. So that's the idea. And I'm trying to think of other instances. See, what happens in most dramas is that it's not so much that they become less badass, it's that they become less relevant as the plot moves towards its conclusion. Like in the beginning, for first few episodes, when you're introducing the character, the female character might seem amazing. Like they make sure. Oh, you know what? A very good example of this is. I'm sorry, I'm moving away from Korean dramas, but for some reason my head is in the Chinese drama game right now.
It's okay. That's fine.
Is Nirvana and Fire. The heroine there, if you will, her introductory scene is about her battling two men together, and she defeats them, and she's like clearly an amazing, the competent person. She's a general. She's been defeating armies. She's been protecting her kingdom from southern or western invasion, something like that. And then her father realizes she's too much of a threat as a general and kind of like sits her down, like brings her back to the palace and is like, you must get married, because that way her tooth she'd become toothless. So that's her arc. So she's introduced as this super badass woman, and then like in the initial few episodes, that there is this situation where again the court is plotting to make her toothless, so she's put in situations where other women might have wilted, but she keeps fighting. So that's still cool. But then that's like the first third, and then the rest of the drama has her sidelined completely. She's only relevant because like her only relevancy comes out when she identifies, like she identifies the hero as the hero. Like she knew him from childhood, and she's convinced that he is the guy she knew from childhood, and then she figures out his identity, a very Count of Monte Cristo type thing. And that's basically just her arc. Like she falls by the wayside. She's no longer badass. She's just waiting in a mountain, I don't know, because of it's just like I don't even know why they spent that entire scene introducing her as someone who's a badass warrior when her warrior creds are never put to test afterwards. So yeah, that's like the most recent drama that I could think of where that happened in a very blatant way, and it happens like quite often. It's just right now I can't think of.
Yeah.
Maybe it's become so ubiquitous. Do you feel like
Yeah.
Descendants of the Sun did that a little bit?
I don't
Did you
think
guys
so.
watch Descendants of the Sun?
I did watch it, and
Yeah.
I don't think that.
Nah, I don't think that.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the heroine. It's just that the plot took a really weird turn at the end that made no sense.
I really loved that show, so I have nothing bad to say about it, except that it was.
that whole thing where they like disappear and come in the desert. That was just
Yeah, I can deal with that because I love the rest of it so much.
okay. Yeah, no, you're right. She was one of the better Kim and Suk heroines. I
And
like
also,
how
if you consider the arc of the secondary couple, the girl played by the Fight My Way heroine,
Kim
what's her
Ji-won.
name?
Oh, just to completely
yeah.
sort of randomly cut in there, Song Joong-gi
Yeah.
and Kim Ji-won just got cast together in a drama, which is quite exciting. I'm really, I'm excited to see this. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my point. So she was, again, her introduction was also pretty. It's not
she was
like the
amazing.
introduction was so badass, but like her character remained competent and cool throughout.
Yeah,
So
she was awesome for sure.
what usually happens with female characters is just that. Like in the first third of the drama, they'll be put. I thought of another one. Police Unit 38. Saya, you remember the Seo and Gok's love interest, like the girl that
Oh,
the
yeah.
girl in the tax office.
Yeah, I can't
forget.
remember her name.
Yeah, so she was initially like she was suspicious of his motives while her boss was teaming up with this Seo In-guk's character because he's a con man, and she has experience with him. Years ago, he had conned her, and all of that. She's like in the first half of the drama, she is treated almost like a protagonist, and then she
And then
kind
she
of
fades
goes away. Fades away, which is what happens most often. It's not so much that their badassery decelerates; it's that they just fade away in the plot.
I think
Okay,
this
so
happens too.
yeah, it does, and like I was actually not thinking of Descendants of the Sun. I was thinking of Heirs, different Kim and Suk drama.
Oh, actually, you're right. It is true about Ez.
Yeah,
Heirs is yeah.
She totally
She's
lost
like-
her backbone.
She's so I actually
She
really
was
liked
a
her
little
in the
bit
beginning. She was really, she stood up for herself. She didn't fall for his lines, and she was really. And then he turns into like this creepy stalker, but she doesn't care because he's like a borderline sexual harasser, and she's just like fine with it. He like shows up everywhere she is, and then like suddenly she's just everything's okay, and she doesn't say anything, and all the people in his life are treating her like garbage. She doesn't say anything. Oh, that show made me so angry.
Oh, doctors! Come on!
Did she become less of a badass?
It's more that.
I think there was no room for her to do that stuff anymore because she was busy doing doctoring.
Yeah, but also I don't know. I wasn't too impressed by how her character sort of like I don't know trimmed out towards the end. Like she was introduced as a wild child, but I'm talking about her as being a doctor and then beating up gangsters who barged into her hospital. That's how she was after she had grown up and become, a resident.
I feel like we're talking about a genre change at that point, though, because it started off like as that, but it kind of because it was a romance, so it kind
I
of
suppose you're right. It's
moved
more that
more fully
it
into
changed
its genre.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. But I really want to see Park Shin-hye, right?
Yeah.
I want to see Park Shin-hye in just like of all the dramas that she's done, Pinocchio, You're Beautiful, and even maybe Heartstrings. Pretty much the only dramas that I would go back and watch again for her. The other dramas, her characters were not super impressive, or they were inconsistent, or problematic, or she really needs to do a good project and soon.
I don't know if it's that she chooses these types of projects, or if it's because she's typecast into this kind of role because she was a child actress and that's just become her image of being like this very demure kind of.
And also, like, she can be a badass, but she does it, and then she becomes like this timid, mousy, innocent. Whenever a man comes onto her, it's very just no.
She gets that deer in the headlights kind of look in her eyes.
Yeah, that needs to go away.
But that's
Like,
part
at
of
this
what,
point, it needs to
like
go away.
in Doctors, there was no sign of that, and that's what I felt like that was a really mature
No,
project for her.
No, there was. Like, when,
maybe I'm just not remembering it then.
that's good. That's good. I'm happy for you. but there was that situation where the hero and the two of them are in her bedroom. I think they're just like picking up something, or it was just completely innocuous. And then he's like, I don't think I can stay here any longer. It's getting a bit racy for me. And she's like, oh, maybe, things should be more racy between us. And he kind of like looms over her, and she looks like, I don't know, he's about to attack her or something. She looks genuinely scared, which I do not understand. He's her boyfriend. And at this point, no, she's playing a 30-year-old character. Just no. But yeah, she needs to play characters her age fast. Yeah, please. The rest of Drama Land has moved on. Other heroines are acting their own age. Could she please stop acting like a 16-year-old caught in a 30-year-old's body? Sorry.
I have a couple of other ones, but they're kind of more old school. Like Goong was like that. Where did you guys watch Goong with Yoon
but she was a 16-year-old.
But she was, yeah. So like, I feel like there was more of a latitude, but she did become more of a doormat. As like, there was a stretch near the end of the drama where she's just like, because she's in love with him, she like doesn't even stand up for herself anymore, and all she does is cry and stay silent, and like he just always leaves her alone, and they keep having misunderstandings, but she never actually like says anything to dispel those understandings. She just keeps getting like abuse piled on her. So like, I really loved that drama, but there is it stretches a little bit too long, and it's because of those. So, but I mean, I'm willing to forgive it more because it was older.
One other drama that I want to talk about was like, because you mentioned Gilrain getting like super Hajiwan's character getting super like Dormati in Secret Garden, which is true. But do you guys remember her character in she did this one where she was a North Korea
girl. Yeah.
King to Heart, yeah, you're right. So in King to Heart, like she was as soon as the romance thing starts and her heart is like, what's his name? Kim Sung-gi?
Isungi.
Isungi, sorry, I'm so sorry. As soon as Isungi's won her heart, she gets a bit doormatty, and then he betrays her in a way, I suppose, because like she loses her unborn child thing, and then she goes back to North Korea and she's feeling so hurt and betrayed, and then he gets trapped and she comes and saves his ass, and she's super badass. But it's like a situation, like, and this happens towards the end of end stretch of the drama. So the reason I bring this up is there is this weird trope where a woman in love will be passive unless her dignity, like her integrity or her virtue is questioned, and then she'll become a tigress, and then again once everything is cool and well, and she'll become doormat again.
It's almost like once she has a man by her side, she no longer has to stick up for herself because now it's his job to stick up for her, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of.
It's like she loses that impetus to be like, no, you can't do that to me. I'm not going to let you get away with it, because apparently now like he's the one who's going to do that, which that bothers me.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like more dramas now that are showing healthier dynamics, which is nice, where you feel like there's more of a partnership. But that's, I think, partly why it feels more regressive when you see something like Secretary Kim, where we had such high hopes and we were thinking that it was going in a certain direction, and then it kind of falls back on that whole like the guy is in the dominant position and she's kind of his underling and she's happy to be loved by him, and his desires are what kind of drives where their relationship is going and what they do, and all of that stuff.
Pretty much. Yeah. Like, one of the things I really hate about drama is after the romance thing starts is when a guy drives a girl somewhere and he refuses to tell her where he's taking her. Like this is not it's not a situation where they have been in a relationship for years and he's taking her on a I don't know surprise trip to the beach or to a restaurant she loves. This is not that kind of surprise. It's like a thing where he will not tell her, even though the place that he's taking to her is like very innocuous. I mean, it has like there's no reason it should be a secret. He just won't tell her. He'll withhold information for no good reason. It's like she doesn't need to know, like she's not important enough to know, and he doesn't owe her an explanation. We might
I feel like
it's a different trope, but
yeah, no, but I mean, I also don't like that, but I feel like that's also playing into the whole thing of like this expectation that the guy is going to do these like romantic events, they call them, for the girlfriend and like surprise her with stuff, where like 99% of the time, like in real life, you just want to know what's going on and you don't want these weird extravagant surprises or like these out of nowhere things happening to you where you're like, could I just know where we're going so I can wear the right outfit, like
yeah,
but I think it's just one of those like things that people do that's caused by like television and movies. That's not very realistic.
A little off topic, something that always makes me break out in hives are those proposal scenes where the guy completely takes the girl by surprise. Like I mean, even if you are in a deep relationship and the proposal is expected, to do it at a completely unexpected moment and not just like a private moment where he just drops the question, which by the way in Secretary Kim I really like that he asked her to be his wife in a very casual manner, like I want to be your husband. That just I thought that was the most romantic proposal ever, and then everybody jumps down his throat and goes like, no, proposal must be romantic and shit.
Yeah,
like
actually, that was one of the things they did a really good job with, the whole thing with the proposal and how he ends up eventually doing like another proposal. I thought they did a good job with that.
Yeah, that's fine. But for me, the most romantic proposal was what he had done before. Like he had.
I agree.
Initially, when he was like, just marry me, that was completely out of context. He was her boss and he was just randomly asking her to marry. That didn't even count. But in her flat, when he was like, I want to make those dreams come true, I want to marry you, that is it. That's an amazing proposal. Was so done so naturally. And again, I'm not even talking about the proposal he ended up doing, because again, it was such an obvious, like she knew a proposal was coming, so she was prepared, she was dressed for the thing. That was fine. But
no, I mean, I liked it too. I'm just saying, I feel like they did. I feel like they did a good job of like having like an actual real proposal that was very meaningful, and then showing how the societal expectation kind of forced him into doing the other one, but he still kind of made it his own.
And then he was suffering from his own blockbuster.
Yeah. So I mean, I liked how they did that, but
yeah, but it does make me feel like really, really awful when I see just heroines walking into this situation where there is this dramatic public proposal happening, and it's completely not unwanted necessarily, but she's completely unprepared for it. What if she doesn't want to get married at that point? Like she really loves the guy, but right at that moment she does not want to get married. I mean, she would have to say yes because it's a public situation and she doesn't want to humiliate him. But what a horrible way to pressure a person.
Yeah, it is, right? It is. It's like it's an unconscious way, or like an unspoken way of pressuring the other person into giving you the answer that you want. But you can play it off as something nice, so you don't even have to be responsible for it. Yeah. Do you guys remember? This is like a real life story that made me really uncomfortable. Do you remember when after Queen Anne
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah, they got together during the drama, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is such a cute drama. This is such a cute couple." And then, like right before he went to the army, he like proposed to her publicly. And then they
wasn't it at the press conference or something at the end?
Right, it was at the press conference or something.
Yeah, it wasn't during the show. It was after the show. Yeah, it was after the show and it was in public.
Yeah, and then he went to the army like a month later, 2 months later, and then after like a month or two, the news came they had broken up. So
they broke up. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking of while he was talking.
Yeah, that it's just such an uncomfortable. It's like even uncomfortable just hearing about it. Like it's so, especially with because it's like it's at your workplace. It's not even just a public venue. I mean, when you're an actor and you're doing a press conference, like that's literally either it was a press conference, it was the rap party, maybe.
It was something
for the drama.
public. I can't remember exactly what it was,
It
but
was
it was
public,
public.
and it was like with around their colleagues.
Yeah.
You know? Even more uncomfortable.
But
So,
when people make those proposals, I feel like they assume that the answer is yes. It doesn't occur to them that the answer might be no.
Yeah.
So rather than being manipulative, it's just dumb.
No, I think it's unintentionally manipulative.
Right.
And I think it's also not necessarily the guy's fault. It's this societal myth that's kind of been created by movies and TV that like it's something nice that she's going to appreciate, which isn't necessarily the case. So they are also just trying to do something nice and romantic because they feel like the proposal has to be perfect and it has to be like a great story that you could tell your grandchildren, and So it's just one of those traps that people fall into. Fortunately.
Yeah. Is it time for the Penguin joke?
I have one today. But we are going to run out of them soon, I think I'll have to consult the annals of Penguin's past at some point. So, you're going to like this one.
You can branch out and get other Ajushi jokes, gags.
You can branch out into other kinds of Ajushi.
I may. I'll cross that bridge when it comes.
Okay.
So, how does a penguin build its house?
With ice blocks. I don't know.
I like how P doesn't even bother trying anymore. She's like, whatever, man. I'm just gonna wait for the answer.
I'm thinking. I know I won't be able to think of anything clever, but I'm still thinking.
Well, shall I tell you?
Yeah, I'm really lost with this one. I can't think of anything.
It glues it together. It glues.
It glues it together.
Of course.
I like this one. This was a good one.
It's a nice one. I like it.
You guys can't see me, but I'm banging my head on my desk right now.
It's because you feel like you should have gotten it, right?
Yeah, I always feel that way. Wow. I just know one Ajushi one dad joke, and
do you want to save it for the next yak?
I don't think I'll be able to do the build up that you do. It's like a very. Should I just tell you guys?
No, save it. We'll have it at the next yak. It'll be something to look forward to.
Yeah.
I'll let the penguin
You're doing
take
the
a
joke
break.
next time, Paroma.
All right. Good. Yeah.
Shall we end it there?
Okay. Goodbye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
So, listeners, which dramas do you remember having a heroine that lost the qualities that made her special after she fell in love? Let us know. Or yell at us for our increasingly cringeworthy penguin dad jokes. Either way, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us at starsinOurPocket@gmail.com or on Twitter at @KDramaPodcast. We'd also super appreciate a review on Apple Podcasts, as that helps people find us. As always, find us on SoundCloud, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, or your podcast platform of choice. Thanks for listening. Bye!